Chrissy, we had a text question, and that is from Tony. And he says his mom has a $7,000 credit card debt. And if mom does not pay that credit card debt, can they come after her house that she owns? And here in the state of Florida, we have a homestead exemption that is given to us by our Florida Constitution. Our Florida Constitution says that no creditor may take away the home of an individual or put a lien against the home of an individual. So as far as the credit cards are concerned, Tony, they could sue her all they want to. They could get judgments against her, but those judgments will not be a lien against the home that your mom happens to live in. They will not be able to foreclose that lien and try and take that home away from your mom.
Exactly. Here in the state of Florida, to further answer Tony's questions and also for you listeners out there, what do we mean? This homestead exemption is very, very important. Why? Because exactly like Tony said with regards to credit cards, but that also applies to, again, other creditors, including if somebody was coming after you for a car accident or suing you for things above and beyond. As you can imagine, only a mortgage, a bank, a mortgage, if you have a mortgage on the home, or if you have unpaid IRS taxes, those are the only two things. But other than that, they cannot. And why is that so significant here in Florida? I know we share this with people all the time during a consultation, but for those listeners out there that may not have heard this before, Florida has the most generous exemption of all the states in the country. And many people may remember when O.J. Simpson, and I know he recently passed away, however, back in the day, when even though he was acquitted of the criminal trial, he was sued and the Goldmans won their case for the civil court. And everybody may remember, or if you're not aware, O.J. moved from California to Florida. Why did he choose Florida? It means because that civil lawsuit against him, they could not attach his house.
He bought a multi-million-dollar home.
Correct.
And it's protected from creditor
Correct.
claims.
So here in Florida, it doesn't matter the value. Where in states like California and others, so for example, you're protected up to $200,000, or you may be protected for, again, whatever the amount in the state, or maybe not at all. Here in Florida, it is unlimited. So what does that mean? Whether your home is worth $50,000 or $5 million, it is protected from those civil lawsuits, including Dan Newland, or that as far as, if you're being sued for a car accident, or back to Tony's question, credit cards.
So we're talking about the Florida constitutional exemption from creditor claims on your homestead. Doctors, hospitals, credit cards, automobile accidents, you're protected. But I do want to say this, that when you go to sell your home, back in the day, all we had to do was an affidavit by the seller saying, hey, this is my homestead, therefore these creditors don't have liens against it. You could sell your home, and that with that affidavit alone, the title company could ignore those judgment liens. Mm-hmm. Now, the courts have ruled that's an undue process. The creditors don't have an opportunity to come in and say, hey, that's not your homestead. You're lying on that affidavit. So even though there's not a lien against the homestead, when you go to sell that homestead, you do have to go to court and get a court order where the court says, yeah, that really is your homestead. Therefore, we can ignore these judgment liens. Therefore, you can sell your home and keep all the proceeds.
In other words, what you're saying is now it's just that there's one more step that's involved if you were to go sell it.
So for our texter, the credit card company, they may sue your mom. They may get a judgment against her for $10,000. They may record that judgment in Orange County if that's where your mom's home is. But the bottom line is that the judgment's there in the public records, but it won't attach as a lien against mom's home. But when she goes to sell that home, she has to go to court and prove to the judge that that's her homestead, and that would get a court order. Yes, the title company, you can ignore those judgment liens.
Exactly. So there's an additional step is what you're saying. However, the end result is the same, which is as long as you are in the home as your homestead, and then if you're selling it, you prove that as your homestead, you are clear of those.
So we are really getting in the weeds today about homestead exemptions,
I know.
and I'm surprised that so many people know this much about it. But I do want to clarify this homestead exemption, and that is this: is that if your homes, we're talking about the homestead exemption given to us by the Florida Constitution that says no creditor may have a lien against your home. As you said, if you sign a voluntary lien to the mortgage company and you don't pay them, yeah, they can take your home. If you don't pay your HOA dues, yeah, they can take your home. If you don't pay your real estate taxes, they can take your home. If you don't pay your federal income taxes, federal law trumps our Florida Constitution,
Exactly.
IRS can take your home from you.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
One more thing about the Florida Constitution homestead exemption. I guess we'll have to finish on the other side of the break. Chrissy, before the break, we were talking about the Florida Constitutional Homestead Exemption, which says that no creditor may take away the home or put a lien against the home of an individual here in the state of Florida. We talked about some exceptions to that. I want to go to one more detail about that. The homestead exemption, in fact, is if you live within the city limits, your homestead exemption is limited to, I believe it's a half acre. If you live in the county, you get up to 160 acres. Why is that important? Because way back in the day, there was a very wealthy person that lived on a 1 acre lot in Winter Park on the chain of lakes, and creditors were trying to pursue his home, and he's claiming homestead exemption. But the problem is, he's got a 1 acre piece of land in the city limits. So very smart lawyer says, oh,
Wait
okay,
a minute. You could attach half of it.
I'm just going to carve out a half acre right around the house. Just a building. That will be my homestead exemption. The rest of the 1 acre is just vacant land. That creditor, what can he do with vacant land? Court said, no way. Not going to work. You can't just carve out the building itself. It's a 1 acre lot. You don't have protection. So I thought that was, pretty interesting just to know that you talked about whether your house is $5 million or $10 million. Price-wise, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Size of the property-wise, it does matter. Inside the city limits, I think it's a half acre, but I need to double-check myself. If you're outside the city limits, it's 160 acres.